At just 25, Amaka's life is anything but easy. She stands tall at 5 feet 8 inches, graceful and beautiful, but burdened with responsibilities that few her age can bear. Since her mother fell seriously ill, Amaka has taken on the role of caretaker and provider, not just for her mother but also for her 2 younger siblings. She works 2 jobs, weekdays at a small office and weekends cleaning houses. Every paycheck is stretched thin between rent, food, medication and school supplies. Still, she pushes forward with quiet strength and hope. Each month, she spends a small portion of her earnings on a single big win raffle ticket. It's her only gamble, her whispered prayer for a miracle. She always buys from the same shop, just a few blocks from her bus stop. This month was no different, until Tuesday evening. After a long shift, Amaka stepped off the crowded public bus and began the walk home. The streets were dim, the lamps flickering. She was only a few minutes from safety when 2 men jumped out from behind a kiosk. They didn't say much, just threats and demands. Her instincts screamed to run or fight, but something deeper, the fear of leaving her siblings motherless, told her to stay still. She handed over her bag without resistance. Inside that bag were her ID cards, her work badge, her ATM card, and her big win ticket which she had bought the day before. She got home shaken but silent. Her siblings needed dinner, homework help, and comfort. Her mother needed her medication. Amaka delivered it all with trembling hands and a forced smile. That Friday, a news broadcast caught her attention. The winning big win ticket was sold from a local shop in the Acadia area. The winner has yet to come forward. Her breath caught. That was her shop. That was the day she bought it. Heart pounding, she checked her little notebook where she wrote down her ticket number over the months. She gasped. It was her number. She rushed to the raffle office. She explained everything, the purchase, the robbery, and the stolen ticket. The woman at the counter listened patiently, then shook her head gently. We understand, but we need a police report. Something official to support your claim. Amaka blinked, stunned. She had never reported the robbery. Still holding on to a shred of hope, she hurried to the local station and tried to explain. The officer listened but frowned. If you didn't file a report when it happened, and didn't list the ticket among stolen items, there's nothing to tie your story to the winning claim. Amaka left the station numb. The miracle she had clung to might have slipped through her fingers. All because of one choice, one delay, one moment of silence in the face of trauma. Meanwhile, across town, not far from Amaka's neighborhood, lived Donald and his wife, Nancy. Life wasn't easy for them either. Donald was a scavenger, not by choice. Every day he searched through dumpsters, junk heaps, and abandoned corners of the city, looking for discarded items that still held value. He had an eye for what could be repaired, reused, or resold. Old shoes, cracked electronics, worn-out handbags, they all found their way into his wheelbarrow. Whatever he salvaged, he sold at the local Okrika market, where second-hand goods were bought and sold like treasure. On that fateful day, Donald moved through his usual routes. By mid-afternoon, his wheelbarrow was half full with finds. Behind a large restaurant dumpster in a quiet part of town, something caught his eye, a woman's handbag. It was surprisingly clean, almost new. No visible tears, no stains. Too good to toss away. He smiled to himself. His wife would love it. He didn't open the bag, just tucked it deep beneath other items, kept it safe through the day, and sold the rest of his findings at the market before heading home. That evening, he proudly presented the handbag to Nancy. "See what I found today, for you," he said, grinning. Nancy turned the bag over in her hands, admiring its quality. "This is not a cheap bag, Donald," she said, surprised. "Where did you find it?" "In a dumpster. Near Allen Avenue." Curious, she finally opened the bag, and froze. Inside were several items. A worn work ID with the name Amaka Okeke, a national ID card, an ATM card, and a crumpled piece of paper with large bold letters. "Big win raffle draw." Her heart skipped. "Donald," she whispered, holding up the ticket, "I think this is a winning ticket." Nancy turned the handbag over carefully, then unzipped the main compartment. Inside, along with a few scattered coins, an old work ID, and a worn ATM card, was a crumpled piece of paper. "Big win monthly raffle ticket." She blinked, remembering something. "Donald," she said slowly, "I saw a poster at the newsstand by the old barber shop. The one where those boys read newspapers and argue all day. The winning ticket was announced. I think this might be it." Donald looked up, suspicious. "How can you be sure?" "I remember the number. Not all of it, but the last 3 digits stood out. Look at this one, 786. It matches." Donald stood, grabbed the ticket, and without a word left the room. The newsstand wasn't far, a cramped space where old papers were tacked on boards and curious minds gathered to read headlines for a few Naira. He pushed through the crowd, eyes scanning the board until he found the poster just beside the television. "Big win raffle, winning ticket, 349786. Prize, 30 million Nigerian Nairas." His knees nearly buckled. He stared at the number again and again. It was real. When he got home, he looked like a man who'd seen a ghost. "It's the winning ticket," he whispered. Nancy sat down slowly, hands clasped. 30 million, she said softly. Then she stood up, firm and clear. "I'm saying we claim it. We say it's ours." Donald shook his head immediately. "No. I'm not a thief, Nancy. This bag belonged to someone. That girl's ID is inside." "But we didn't steal it," she insisted. "You found it? She's probably already reported it. Do you think they'll believe her? Look at us, scavengers. When will we ever see this kind of opportunity again?" Donald fell silent. The weight of her words pressed against his conscience. 30 million Naira. Enough to lift them from poverty forever. No more dumpsters. No more hand-to-mouth life. He could open a real business. His wife could rest. They could start over. "But that girl," he murmured. "She's probably crying her eyes out right now. What if she needed that money for something important?" "So do we," Nancy snapped. "Don't we matter too?" Silence hung in the air like smoke. Later that night, Donald lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The ticket sat on the table, glowing faintly in the moonlight. A miracle had landed in his hands, but at what cost? The next morning, Donald sat at the edge of the bed, the ticket clenched in his hand. Nancy stood in front of him, arms folded. "You know this country," she said. "If we don't move fast, someone else will. And once the deadline passes, that money vanishes into the air." Donald nodded slowly. He had barely slept. The image of Amaka's ID card haunted him. Her smile, the faded lamination, the worn-out edges. But Nancy's words echoed louder. "We didn't steal it. We found it. We need this too." By noon, he had bathed, put on his cleanest shirt, and a pair of worn shoes. Nancy pressed the ticket into his palm and gave his shoulder a squeeze. "Be calm," she whispered. "Act like it's yours." The lottery headquarters in Ikeja was nothing like Donald had imagined. It was sleek, glassy, air-conditioned. The kind of place he had never stepped into, not even to clean. He hesitated outside the gate until a uniformed guard waved him in. Inside, he waited behind a polished counter, his hands sweaty. A woman in a navy blue blazer smiled professionally. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you?" He swallowed hard, then pushed the crumpled ticket forward. I have the winning ticket," he said quietly. She took it, scanned it quickly, then looked up. "One moment, please." She disappeared into the back office. Donald stood still, heart thumping like a drum. His eyes darted around the lobby, gold-framed posters of past winners, a big screen showing prize draws, a digital counter blinking next winner in 12 days. Finally, the woman returned, flanked by a man in a gray suit and a security officer. "Congratulations," she said with a small smile. "This is the winning ticket." Donald's knees nearly gave out. "But," the man in the suit said, stepping closer, "there's just one issue. Protocol requires us to verify the claimant's identity. Can we see your ID, sir?" Donald froze. His throat dried. I don't have one on me." The man frowned slightly. "The prize is 30 million Naira. For that amount, we'll need proper documentation. Name, address, bank information." Nancy hadn't prepared him for this. "I lost my ID," he said, voice barely audible. "Okay," the woman said gently. "No problem. If you can bring some form of documentation, voter card, national ID, anything, we'll move forward. Can't you just use the ticket? Donald asked. It's part of the requirement, the man said more firmly now. It's for your safety too. Fraud is common. Donald nodded, dazed. Okay, here is my voter's card. He left the building in a fog. Outside, the sun was blazing, but he felt cold. In the evening news, it was announced the winner, Donald has claimed the ticket. By morning, Amaka had made up her mind to fight for ticket. She rose before the sun, dressed simply, and tied her hair back with quiet determination. Her body was tired, but her spirit burned. She boarded the earliest bus to Acadia, staring out the window, her fists clenched in her lap. The moment she stepped into the Big Win Lottery office, the receptionist glanced up with a smile. Good morning, how may I help you? Amaka stepped closer, voice steady. I'm here about the winning ticket. The one that was claimed yesterday. That man, Donald. He's not the real winner. That ticket is mine. The smile faltered. Ma'am, the prize has already been verified. I know, Amaka interrupted. But I came here last week. I told someone that my ticket was stolen in a robbery. I had just seen the winning number on the news and I came here immediately. The woman I spoke to wore glasses and had short hair. The receptionist blinked, suddenly attentive. You came here before? Yes, Amaka said firmly. I didn't have any documents because my bag was stolen. My ID, my ATM card, the ticket. Everything was inside. I explained that. She told me to get a police report. The receptionist reached for the phone and dialed. Please send Chioma to the front desk. Moments later, a woman in navy blue slacks and glasses approached. Her face lit with recognition. You, Chioma said slowly, walking closer. You were here last week. Yes, Amaka said, barely holding back tears. I told you everything. The robbery. The ticket. You said I needed to get a police report. Chioma turned to the floor supervisor who had just stepped out from a nearby office. She did, Chioma confirmed. She came in right after the winning numbers were announced. She said her bag was stolen, ID, raffle ticket, everything. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. The supervisor folded his arms, now fully alert. What location did she say she bought the ticket from? The kiosk near the Allen Avenue bus stop, Chioma replied without hesitation. The supervisor exhaled. That's where the winning ticket was sold. Amaka's eyes welled, but she stood her ground. That man you showed on TV, he has my bag. My name was on the ID inside. If he found the ticket, he also found everything else. The room was silent for a beat. We're going to look into this immediately, the supervisor said at last. Amaka nodded slowly, feeling the tightness in her chest ease, if only a little. She was no longer invisible. This fight wasn't over. Donald arrived at the lottery office the next afternoon, a slight bounce in his step. He had even worn the same shirt from the interview. The receptionist greeted him with a reserved nod and asked him to wait in a private meeting room. A few minutes later, the floor supervisor entered with a neutral expression. A second staff member followed, clipboard in hand. Behind them, a plainclothes officer leaned quietly against the wall. Donald sat up straighter. Good afternoon, Mr. Donald, the supervisor began. Thanks for coming in. We're just following up on some details before your prize is finalized. Of course, Donald said, offering a careful smile. The supervisor glanced at his notes. Can you tell us again, where exactly did you buy your winning ticket? Donald's heart thumped once hard. He hesitated just a second too long. The kiosk near Allen Avenue, he said finally. I don't remember the name. Just a small place. They sell snacks too. The supervisor nodded slowly as if expecting that answer. You know, he said, tapping the pen against his folder, that kiosk's been in the news lately, because that's where the winning ticket was sold. A lot of people are talking about it. The supervisor leaned forward. Here's the thing, Mr. Donald, another person came forward today. A woman. She says the ticket was stolen from her during a robbery. She came to this office the day the numbers were announced and reported it. Donald's face flushed. I don't know anything about a woman. The supervisor raised a hand. For now, we've invited the police to investigate. Until then, the prize payout is suspended. You're not under arrest, Mr. Donald, but we'd appreciate your full cooperation moving forward. Donald nodded stiffly, sweat forming at his temples. Of course. He left the building with a heavy heart, the weight of every word echoing in his ears. At home, Nancy was waiting by the door. The moment she saw his face, her stomach dropped. What happened? They called the police, he said flatly. They know something's off. The woman came forward. The one whose bag I found. Nancy's eyes widened. Did you tell them you found it? No, I didn't, he snapped. She crossed her arms. So what now? We give it up? Just hand it back? Donald exploded. I told you this was trouble from the start. But you pushed. You said we should claim it. And you agreed, she snapped back. Don't put it all on me. They stood in silence, the tension thick between them. Finally, Donald sat down heavily. It's too late to undo it. They've seen my face on TV. Everyone knows. We can't back out now. Nancy sat beside him, quieter now. Then we have to see it through. They sat in the dim room, the weight of 30 million Naira pressing down harder than poverty ever had. Detective Ada leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the case file. The air in the office was quiet except for the rustle of papers and the faint hum of the ceiling fan. His partner, Officer Joy, stood by the window, scanning the interview summaries. One says the ticket was stolen during a robbery, she said. The other says he bought it himself, clean and simple. But nothing's clean about this, Ada replied. The woman, Amaka, came here days before the winner claimed the prize. She reported the robbery and told staff she believed her ticket was the winner. She had no ID, no proof, but her story was on record. Joy tapped the folder. Donald, on the other hand, says he bought the ticket from the same kiosk Amaka named. The one near Allen Avenue. Ada stood. Let's find out who's telling the truth. Despite being called a kiosk, the store sat comfortably on the ground floor of a busy plaza. It was a proper convenience shop, stocked with snacks, soft drinks, phone recharge cards and a glass display near the counter advertising the big win raffle tickets. The floor was always buzzing, with 5 or 6 attendants working at any given time. Ada and Joy stepped inside and introduced themselves to the manager on duty, a neat woman in her late 30s with pressed braids and a name tag that read Ms. Beauty. She ushered them into a small corner near the stockroom for privacy. We're investigating a raffle ticket that was sold here last week, Ada said. The winning ticket, in fact. We have 2 people claiming it. Ms. Beauty crossed her arms. Well, we do sell a lot of those tickets. The day after the draw, this place was packed. Everybody wanted to know if it was their own that won. But truth be told, we serve hundreds of customers every week. I can't say for certain who bought what. Officer Joy pulled out a photo of Donald. Ms. Beauty studied it, then gave a slight shake of her head. He doesn't look familiar, but again people come and go. Ada nodded and then showed her Amaka's photo. Before Ms. Beauty could respond, a young male attendant who had been quietly restocking drinks behind the counter leaned forward. I know her, he said. She comes here often. Tall girl, quiet. She buys only 1 ticket every time, usually in the evening after work. Ms. Beauty glanced at him, a bit surprised. Are you sure? Joy asked. Yes, Ma, he said. I even remember her buying the last one. The week of the winning draw. I told her, you go win one day. Oh. Ada turned back to Ms. Beauty. So she's a regular. Ms. Beauty shrugged slightly. Well, my boys remember faces better than I do. But if he says she's a regular, I trust him. He handles the front most evenings. We appreciate your help, he said, standing. This helps us narrow things down. As they stepped back out into the afternoon heat, Joy looked over at Ada. She's got a witness. He doesn't. Ada nodded, his face hardening. And no CCTV inside. No timestamp. It's one story against the other, but hers is holding up. He paused, then pulled out his phone. Time to call Donald back in. Let's see how well his story survives the second round. After their visit to the store, Officers Ada and Joy didn't leave immediately. Something about the setup gnawed at Ada's instincts. He stood across the street, eyes scanning the row of buildings, deep in thought. "Sir," Joy said, pointing across the road. "That plaza. See that camera above the pharmacy sign?" Ada followed her finger. Mounted on the wall of a nearby building was a CCTV camera angled toward the main entrance of the street that led into the plaza where the convenience store was located. Joy narrowed her eyes. "It doesn't cover the shop itself, just the sidewalk leading into the street." Ada squinted, then nodded. "Still, if either of them came through the main path, it might show up. Let's visit the store and see the footage." In the office above the pharmacy, a technician pulled up the footage for Tuesday evening between 5:30 and 8 p.m. Ada and Joy watched in silence. The angle showed a constant stream of foot traffic. Commuters, market women, cyclists weaving through. Then, around 6 p.m., a familiar figure appeared. Amaka. She walked across the sidewalk, turned into the street leading toward the plaza, handbag at her side, wearing a light blue blouse. "Pause," Ada said. "That's her," Joy confirmed. Heading straight toward the shop. They fast-forwarded the footage, but Donald never appeared, at least not on that route. Joy raised an eyebrow. So he lied. Ada didn't speak for a moment. Then he pointed to the far end of the footage. "Not necessarily. Look there at the wall. There is a service pavement, probably used for trash bins and deliveries." Joy tilted her head. "You think he could have used that?" Ada nodded. "It connects to the rear compound of the plaza. Someone trying to avoid a busy front entrance, or just walking casually from the other side, could have used it." "No camera coverage on that side," Joy said with a sigh. "Exactly. So while we confirmed Amaka's direction of entry, we can't rule Donald out just yet." The news anchor Tolu Adebayo's voice rang out clearly. In a shocking twist to this month's big win lottery results, 2 individuals are now claiming to be the rightful owner of the winning ticket worth 30 million naira. The lottery board and the police are currently investigating conflicting reports submitted by both claimants. One, a known scavenger from the outskirts of Lagos. The other, a young office worker who says her bag was stolen in a robbery the same week the ticket was announced. Donald's face went pale as he watched with Nancy near the viewing center. It was dark outside. Nancy stood behind him, arms folded tightly. "What is this?" she hissed. "How did this get out?" "They showed my face." "My name?" Donald whispered. "What if the police come for us?" she asked, pacing. "What if they arrest us for lying? For fraud? I told you this would happen. I told you we shouldn't push it. And I told you it was too late to back out." They argued back and forth, voices low but tense, fear thick in the air. Eventually, silence settled. They walked home. At home, Nancy sat down, face in her hands. "Maybe we should just leave town. Pack up. Go to your cousin in Port Harcourt." "We run now, it's like admitting guilt," Donald said bitterly. "But what if they prove it?" she whispered. "What if they find something that shows the ticket was never yours?" The joy he once felt had drained out completely. Only dread remained. "We started this," he said quietly. "We have no choice now, but to finish it." The room was modest, bare but clean. A table, 2 chairs, a digital recorder, and 2 notepads. Officer Ada sat calmly across from Donald, who fidgeted in his seat, sweat beading slightly at his brow. Officer Joy stood near the door, arms folded, silent but observant. Ada flipped open a folder and clicked his pen. "Thank you for coming in again, Mr. Donald. Just a few follow-up questions to clarify a few things before we conclude our investigation." Donald gave a nervous smile. "Of course, no problem."